Beautiful. So let's, as always, start with a little agenda. So first, we'll go through some action items and upcoming events. You all did such a great job of interviewing and participating in your mock interviews. So now it's time to get some of the rewards from that and talk about next steps and get this program started. And Kathleen will go through that with you all. And then we'll go through a communication workshop. We do have a lot of material, but we're going to try and engage with you all a ton in the chat and also to come off mute talking about professional communication. And then we'll jump into a social identities exercise, and we'll break into small groups for parts of that as well. So give you all a chance to engage with one another. And then finally, we will try and have time for cohort reflections, but just for the sake of getting everyone out at 8, we might not have time to get to that. So if you were needing to talk to your success coach or check in with them in some way, just be prepared for maybe sending an email or a text after the session in case we don't get to cohort reflection. But without further ado, I will pass it to Miss Kathleen.
All right, so we're going to get started with a couple announcements, but the first is an upcoming assignment. So the next deliverable we'll do is the Cooter Career Assessment and Reflection. And so this is due Sunday, June 4th. So you've got a couple weeks to work on it. All of the instructions are on Google Classroom. And so please make sure to take a look at that. But there is basically, you'll need to make an account with Cooter Journey Assessment. We have a code for you to use so that you'll be able to log in, and all of the information is on the instructions. But most importantly, what you need to turn in for this deliverable is a reflection sheet. And so there is a set of 5-10-ish questions regarding kind of what you thought about your results from the assessment. And so that's what you'll be turning in. If you have participated in SummerWorks before, there are a few alternate assessments that you can do instead of the Cooter. So there's a list of them on the Google Classroom, but again, it's like 16 personalities, enneagrams. There's a couple of other ones, but that is the other option if you've done Cooter before. Next, we have, just like as a reminder, past due at this point, your resume. If you still haven't gotten to that to us, please make sure that you do. If you did not come to the interview event, you have to do a mock interview with your success coach. And then the mentee form, Armika is working on matching you all with some mentors, but if you still submit your form, you can. Next week, we will be having a session, but rather than a PD topic, it will be HR orientation. And so this will be everything that you need to get hired for your internship. So it's really important that you be there. If you have an internship, internship placements have been sent out. So you should know who you've been matched with. If you have not received an internship placement, please check in with us. If you are one of those people who are just doing professional development, you do not have an internship, you do not need to attend next week's session. But everyone else, if you have an internship, you need to be there. And again, the options are on Tuesday or Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. And then next week, we also have optional check-ins with your success coach or career advisors. In the week of July, this will be a requirement of the program. But for this next week, because not everyone has PD, you have the option to check in with your success coach. It can be about a variety of different things. You could talk about your internship, getting ready for that, anything that you're missing so far, or if you just want to chat, check in, see how things are going. I see in the chat, PD stands for professional development. So these sessions, they are professional, skill building, professional development. And then we have, if email really isn't your thing, if you want reminders through text messages, we do have a Remind 101. So if you want to pull your phone out right now, you can text at SW 2023 to 8/10/10. It's right on the screen at SW 2023 to 8/10/10. And we will be sending out reminders that way as well for important things that are coming up, important reminders. And then lastly, just as a reminder, our in-person sessions start June 17th. So that will be a Friday. But we just want to keep reminding you all, if you have come to the virtual sessions, you will be receiving a $50 gift card for completing the virtual sessions. So heads up on that, you'll be getting a nice little gift card. So that is all the announcements. I see there's some questions in the chat, and Tabitha is thankfully monitoring them. If you are matched with a mentor, with an internship, you do need to attend the HR orientation. So that is next week. We'll go over the paperwork you have to do, kind of how you're going to get paid, what's that's going to look like, and basically everything that we need to make sure that you get hired officially. So, all right. We will continue answering the questions, but I am going to move on. So today we are talking about communication. So we have been communicating all of our lives, really since the day we have been born, with crying, and now up until we're here today. So why are we talking about it in MPD? This is something that we've been doing, something we know how to do. And so what are some reasons you think we might be talking about this today? If you want to drop it in the chat, share. But why is communication so important?
Can you ask the question again?
Yeah, why is communication important? All right, Saran says the way you communicate in a professional setting can look a lot different than at school or with friends. Definitely. Autumn says to understand requirements and people fully. Nadia says everyone can communicate, but you have to communicate certain ways in different situations. Yeah, definitely. So as I think Saran said, a lot of you have been communicating all your lives, but this may be the first time that you're in a professional setting, and professional communication looks a little different than, out in the world with your family or with your friends. And so we're talking about things like how to write an email, how to answer the phone at work, how to communicate with one another. I see some more things in here, but being able to persuade, but workplace communication, being able to communicate with your coworkers is a sign of high performance culture. Exchanging information and ideas within an organization is called workplace communication. And so effective communication occurs when a message is sent and accurately received. So communication is important. It avoids confusion, provides purpose, builds positive company culture, and creates accountability. And so these are all things that we are going to be learning about today. So I am going to pass it over to Tabitha.
I'm going to unmute myself, and I'm going to finish responding to a question in the chat in just, which will take me 30 seconds or less. Beautiful. Okay, so there are several considerations you should consider when you're deciding how to communicate. There's lots of different ways. Technology does beautiful things for us, but it also leaves us with lots of choices. So first consideration is, who are you sending the message to, and who are you to them? So if I want to send Kathleen an email it would probably look a little different than if I wanted to send Ben an email, for example. We're both colleagues, so it will still be a professional email, but it will be a little bit different since Kathleen is my supervisor and Ben is my coworker. And also you'll want to consider who they are in terms of what type of medium you're using. So for example, a text is a lot more informal than an email. So just keeping that in mind with who you're communicating with and what relationship you have with them in that professional capacity. And also what you can ask yourself, what is the message you are trying to get across and what are you trying to portray? What is the intention behind that? And there are different messages that are more appropriate for different types of communication. So if you want to get something across very urgently, an email is definitely not going to be your best bet. So sometimes you can call an organization, you can text them, you can G-chat. Each organization or professional setting that you find yourself in may have a different standard that they follow. So just being really aware of what your organization or that professional environment that you're trying to communicate within, what they follow, and then adhering to that in the way that makes you feel the most comfortable with the message you're trying to get across. And very closely tied into that is when. So how urgent is the message? When do you want it to get across in addition to what it is? If it doesn't matter when it gets across, an email is a great option. If you need to call somebody and tell them immediately, that's another one. Again, just being really aware of what your organization or professional environment, what that norm, quote unquote, is with that group. And then also what medium is most appropriate to communicate. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in professional development, or number 6, I believe. But there are some instances where you want to document your communication. So a phone call, while it may be an urgent matter that is you need to talk about over the phone or over a Zoom call, you'll want to have a documentation email of that, what we call a paper trail. So just being aware of what medium is most appropriate and what best suits that message that you're trying to communicate across. What questions do folks have about that? Beautiful. I will pass it to Miss Armika for some overall guidelines.
Hello, everybody. Okay, so some overall guidelines for workplace communication. Number 1, first and foremost, be respectful in your communications. So make sure you're using every courtesy that you have available to you with thank you and please, and to be a little more specific, demonstrate that you're actively listening when someone is speaking to you. So if I'm speaking and you're not looking at me or you're preoccupied with something, that can be a little disrespectful maybe to some people. So how can you demonstrate that you're actively listening? Does anybody want to put some ideas in the chat about what it might look like if you're actively listening to someone? Nodding your head is a good one. That affirmation.
The whole face is facing them. Yeah.
I like that a lot. Eye contact is a good one. Thank you, Autumn. Asking engaged questions, definitely. And asking if if you just want to confirm that you heard something. Yeah. So a lot of things you can do to let someone know that you're actively listening to them. All right. And I apologize, 1 second.
Armika, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Did I mute myself before I yelled at the pizza guy? Sorry. Another thing you can do to show that you're respectfully communicating in the workplace is, well, mind your body language. So anybody have any ideas? Eye contact could be considered body language. What's some other ideas of good body language when you're speaking to an employee, an employer or an employee? No slouching.
I know. I think like people will interview people like with the rolly chairs, and that's a like scam, and they're trying to like see if you'll move a lot or if you're really fidgety and stuff. So don't move.
That's really smart. The spinny chairs, if you're playing in your chair, that does not look very professional. It doesn't look like you're here to take the work seriously and that you're wanting to do a good job. You look like you're there to play in the chairs. So that's an excellent one. Another idea of good body language, you do want to sit up straight, within your ability. So your best posture within your ability. Other things that you could do, maybe not pick at your nails while someone's speaking to you, or if you're being interviewed or you're in an employment setting. Yeah. Yeah. Nodding your head is also another good example of body language, or, those are great. All righty. Another thing you could do is take notes when you're meeting with someone. So when I did the military, when I did the Naval Reserves, I was always impressing folks because I would walk around with a pen. I always had a pen on me. So that if somebody said something to me, I could write it down so I would get it exactly right. And so I've done that a lot of jobs too. And people think, you look like you're paying attention and you're being respectful when you just have that pen in your hand. So be ready to write things down if you're having a meeting with someone, or, if somebody's giving you direction. It's a good thing to take notes so that you can have them to refer back to. And it looks really good on you too. You look very responsible. I will say that emails are a good way to communicate with. It's a natural way to, it's a common way to communicate with employers and with peers. But if you have some communication that is urgent, like if you are late or if you have an emergency or if you need to call off, or, if there's changes in the last minute, you want to communicate that in a way that gets that message and gets you confirmation that somebody received your message. So it would be better to leave, to pick up the phone and call, or leave a voicemail if you don't get an answer, and follow it up with a text. If you want to be super efficient, you could try to call, leaving a voicemail if they're not picking up, texting, and if you don't get a reply, send an email as well. Maybe there's somebody, a second in command, that you can communicate that information to by phone also. So those are some good guidelines for workplace communication. I'm going to ask Ben to help us with email etiquette.
All right, so email etiquette. We're just going to kind of break down what your typical email etiquette is going to look like, including all the different pieces of it, from having a professional email address to the subject line that you're going to want to put, your signature, perhaps, what you're going to want to put in there, maintenance and best practices, and of course, just all the neat little functions that go along with it as well. So why don't we hop over to the next slide and we'll do some examples of good and bad professional email addresses. So you want to make sure that your email represents you and who you are, or your organization, right? So what I'm going to do is put a couple of emails, some example ones, in the chat, and I would like everyone to just know, is this a professional email? Yes or no, and why or why not? So I'm just going to type a couple in that I have prepared for us. All right. So this first one. Is that a professional email address? What are we thinking? All right, we've got a lot of no's. So can anybody explain why that's not a professional email address? And you can either come off mute or put in the chat. What's wrong with this email address?
I can answer it. Emails should have like your first name and last name and shouldn't have like all extra stuff.
Right. This doesn't tell anyone who this actually is, right? If I sent an email to my boss with this email address, they're probably going to ignore it because they're going to have no idea who that is. Yeah, except that they love cats. Exactly, Joel. All right, I'm going to put another one in here. What do we think of this? Right, we've got a no here as well because it's too cluttered up, right? Those numbers don't mean anything. It's just kind of jarbled. It almost looks fake, is what Trinity says. Almost like a scam email coming through. All right, let me see here. I'm gonna throw one at you. What do we think of this? Yeah, I mean, I would say it's okay. It's decent. It's all right. There's some numbers in there, but like, I think if someone got an email from this and they knew who I was and they were expecting something, they would probably pick up that it's me. A lot of times organizations, they'll give you a work email address. So for example, that's my current work email, right? It's pretty clear. It's got my first initial and my last name. And then the email address is actually at my organization. So that's Michigan Works Southeast. So anyone who I'm emailing with, they're going to know who it is and where they're from, right? So really good example of a good email address. All right, and let's try this one out. Would an employer be cool with this on your resume? Yeah, that's kind of the go-to, right? First name, last name, at Gmail. It's pretty much the standard at this point. I don't know about Mans. Don't know about my last name. All right, so those I would say are all examples of good ones. So stay away from like cluttering it up. You want to make it professional. Don't make it about something that's not related to either you or your workplace. Yeah, and just kind of keep it as simple as you can. So we're gonna hop over to the next slide, and I think it's Mel.
That's me. I'm taking
that's
over
you.
today.
Oh, Mel's not here, is she?
Yep.
All right.
And I just want to reiterate, like, it's fine to have some numbers because especially if you have a common name, you're not going to be able to just get your name at gmail.com because someone else already probably has it. But just don't overload it with numbers. So I am going to talk about subject lines. So what is a subject line? Who knows what that means?
It basically just gives background to like what the email is going to contain.
Yes. And who just spoke? Because your name is not your name.
I had to join from my phone. It's Kayla Jones.
Kayla. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks, Kayla. Yes, so it is about what the message is about. So these should be concise but informative and answering the question, what's the main message? So similar to what Ben did, I am going to put something in the chat and let me know if you think this is an appropriate subject line. All right, I'm seeing lots of no's. Why is it not a good subject line? Aggressive, it's giving spam. Aggressive, it's rude. Yes, no explanation of the email, even better. All right, yeah, you guys are on it. So, definitely avoid caps, all caps if possible. Avoid using emojis, excessive punctuation, and definitely you want to make sure that gives an idea of what the meeting is about. So what about this one? See some notes. Creepy. No, no, no. Not professional. Informal. Unprofessional. All right. How can we make this better? What would we use instead? Seems lazy. Yeah, yeah. No abbreviations. Yep. Use full words. Yep. Set a meeting time. All right. Shemaya put an example, I think. All right. And we will be doing some practicing later on. But all right, we're going to do a couple more. I keep losing my chat. It disappears on me. Meeting request. Great. All right. How about this one? No way. No, 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 no. Well, I'm glad you all know this. All right. So what about why is this one not a great subject line? Okay, it could be flirty. Unprofessional, too informal. For sure, for sure. And I would just say in general, never use a winky face in a professional setting. All right. And then our last one. How about this? Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Depends. Joel, what does it depend on? All right. What about though? So yeah, maybe adding some context. So it's definitely an appropriate subject line, but it might be, yeah, as Tier said, who, what, where, when, why. So even though it's an appropriate subject line, it would probably be more helpful to say what the meeting is about and, you know, when you're thinking on Friday, that sort of thing. So, all right. And then one more thing, if you send an email without a subject line, what happens? Who knows what that looks like?
They're
Nobody-
just they're too good at writing email subject lines. They just could never.
All right, Kayla says it's likely to be ignored. Trinity, it says no subject. Yes, so that's what it will look like. It will pop up in your email and it will look like this. And so it will definitely not look important, not get anyone's attention, and you should avoid it. So definitely don't forget to put a subject line. The information is summarized and out there. All right. Now we are going to talk about an email signature. So email signatures, I am going to share my screen. Assuming I can find the right screen. All right. Also, for everyone, this is the subject line. This is where it goes. Okay, but if you are in your inbox and you click the little icon up at the top and say, see all settings, if you scroll down to the bottom, this is where you can put your email signature. And so this is an old one of mine that I use, but basically it's a great place to put kind of who you are, what you do, sometimes a phone number. You don't have to do that though. And it's also a really great place to put your pronouns. And you can also just have your name. That's fine too. You can just have your information, your name. You can just say sample signature. But it could just say best, Kathleen Clancy, and just leave it at that. You do want to try to give a little bit more context when necessary. Fancy signature, yes. So I actually found this. I can share the link, but someone I work with uses this thing called Signature Hound, and it can make you a nice little template thing. And so on my signature, I have the SummerWorks website linked, the SummerWorks LinkedIn, the SummerWorks YouTube page, my email, the SummerWorks email, my phone number, and talking about, what I do. So that is how you put in a signature. And you can use images if you want, but again, that's just a preference. If you do, make sure that it's something that doesn't draw away from your name. I would recommend making your name large. If appropriate, like don't put it in size 10 font. You don't want it to be overly huge, but the general range I would say is between 12 and 16 font. Ben and Dallas have really great email signatures with all of their Michigan Works stuff in it and linked. So if you've gotten an email from them, you can check that out. But you also want to make sure that if you do include an image, that it's appropriate. So typically that's a logo of where you work or what you do. But an inappropriate image might just be a random picture of your dog or whatnot. So make sure that it's relevant to you. Are there questions about email signatures? Okay, passing it over to Tabitha.
There's one thing I'm going to say about closely related to email signatures, but a little adjacent. There's this fun little trend going around where funno Gen Zers are signing off your emails in fun ways. That is very dependent on your work environment. And anyone who's my age or older who hasn't heard of this, I recommend looking it up because it is quite funny. But I recommend before putting anything funny in a sign off, just check it. Just read the room. When in doubt, read the room.
And also, sorry, one more thing. You can change your email signature. So on Gmail, it will there's a little pen icon. And so for mine, I have 2 separate signatures. And so I can interchange them. So depending on who I'm sending the email to, I change my signature out.
Wonderful.
All right, Tabitha.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kathleen. So checking your email. First of all, I will say I have very strong opinions about this. Checking your email within business hours is a super great habit to be in. And if you're someone who struggles with that, please let me know. I had to set up some very specific strategies to get out of the habit of accidentally ghosting people. So I hear you. It can be hard, but I recommend setting up that habit as early as possible. But with the huge caveat of within business hours. I'm a huge fan of turning off your email notifications if you're comfortable. It is a very freeing experience, do recommend, but within business days and hours, so Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. typically, but just keeping in mind, email is not the most urgent form of communication, but you don't want to ghost somebody. So within 48 hours, checking that email and responding. And like I said, I have lots of fun tips if that's something that you struggle with, because I've been there. But any questions about checking email or business hours versus not business hours in email? It's fabulous. All right, Kathleen, can you tell us when to send emails?
Yes. So thinking about first, is it appropriate to send an email or not? So when it is appropriate, if you're providing regular updates about a project, so if you have just something quick to do updates, that's definitely appropriate, as Tabitha mentioned, during working hours. But that is subject to interpretation based on your place of business. Some places you might be expected to respond after hours. Some places it's very frowned upon, and they ask you to not ever respond during outside of business hours. So it can kind of just depend. You can also use the schedule send function, which I use a lot because I work a lot of after hours. And so if you want to work outside of the typical hours, there's a function on Gmail where you can just schedule for it to go out the next morning. And so that can be a useful tool. It's also appropriate for asking for feedback or setting up a meeting, but times when it's inappropriate. There is times when email is inappropriate. So if you're upset about something or agitated, or maybe something did not go as expected, it's not a good time to use email. First and foremost, it's probably best to have that as a conversation, either in person or over the phone. You don't want to, write a very angry email, and it can be interpreted in many different ways. And so you want to make sure that if you are upset about something or something happens, you want to make sure that you handle that in person. If the message is really long, sometimes it's better to just set up a meeting and then follow up in an email, or taking notes at a meeting. If it's longer than, would even say 3 or 4 paragraphs, that's a lot of information. And typically emails that are longer than that are usually a recap email or information to reference based on what has already been discussed or talked about in a meeting. And then lastly, if something's really urgent, email is not very fast. And while it's expected to respond within 24 hours, sometimes you need to know something right away. And so don't expect someone to respond to an email within, even an hour. If you need something right away, it's easier to just call and get it taken care of. And so if something's urgent, definitely don't send an email. All right, I'm going to pass it to Dallas to talk about ghosting.
All right, so ghosting is more than just what happens when the date goes wrong. Ghosting is more than you don't feel like answering my text messages, so you disappear, right? That's when it's more in a personal sense, but it can happen professionally as well. Ghosting is literally just the act of not responding, not being attentive, not being present. I have a definition of when someone ends a relationship by cutting off all communications without explanation. That's what we have there. So again, just to kind of reiterate, there is an aspect of personal ghosting, and then there is an aspect of professional ghosting. So with that being said, can someone tell me what it looks like? Matter of fact, I have an example for you. SummerWorks. Let's act like you guys are spending the summer of 2023 doing a youth employment initiative, right? Let's pretend you guys are doing that. And let's say there's about 5 or 6 success coaches and or career advisors, and there's a host of different employers. If we are speaking via email, and you don't respond to that email, can somebody come off the mic and tell me how that looks? What would those people think?
If they're ghosted,
Yep.
oh, they would feel disrespected, and they'd probably either try to reach out because to try to be more professional, or they do the same back.
Disrespect is real. Anybody
And
else?
can I say something?
Yeah, go for it.
And they'll probably think that you're not interested
Yeah.
in whatever it is you're emailing them for.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So in this imaginary summer youth initiative where you guys are working, right? If you ghost in that situation, there's a chance you could be removed from the program, right? Just in this example, because of course this is a made up situation I'm talking about, right? You could be excluded from the program. You may not get whatever stipend or money or resources or whatever is intended. And that's not necessarily cool, right? Because I mean, we want that. That's why we were all in that imaginary situation, right? So, bottom line is don't do it, guys. Let's be more attentive. Let's check that email. Let's be mindful. Let's do all of that great stuff so we don't have to, be in said situation. So underlining, the fact that it looks extremely unprofessional, plus what Maria and Caitlin mentioned. Forgetting to respond to an email isn't ghosting. I mean, sometimes we do kind of drop the ball, but that's when we have to figure out, all right, how can we make this right? So taking responsibility and making sure you revisit. You can reiterate, maybe there was a family emergency, so kind of letting that person know, hey, this is what's going on, this was not my intention, and how can I either catch up or resolve or do whatever I need to do to kind of get back on track, right? We want to make sure that we put our best foot forward, because that's what this is all about, making sure that we're performing to our best ability. Because for you LeBron fans, if he went out there and played like, I don't know, Dylan Brooks, if you guys are sports fans, or if he played like your baby brother or whomever in your family, we don't expect that from LeBron James, right? You guys think he's supposed to win it all, and we're here to watch you play. So it's kind of like that same thing, right? We're here to perform, and we're here to perform well. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and pass the mic. Who's after me? Don't tell me. I can look it up. Tabitha, welcome back.
So happy to be here. Let's talk about some email functions. So would it be helpful for folks to see this as I talk? Thank you. Okay, so this little pen down here, you can insert a signature. I just have one. But if you have multiple signatures like Kathleen does, number one, you're very fancy. Number two, they'll all be listed here. So that's number one. And then so it's already popped away, but when you hit reply to an email, there are two options. Okay, two options. And they're very different, and the distinction is very important. So there's reply and reply all. So if you get sent an email and you want every single person who also got that email to hear what you're saying, you hit reply all. If you do not want every single person, even if you want multiple people, just hit reply and it will reply to that one person that initially sent the message, and you can always add more people, but it won't send to everybody. So knowing when to hit reply and reply all is very important. I think most of us have been on those very long, very annoying email chains where that happens. And people are just, remove me from this chain. You don't want to do that. Reply all, very different, very important. And then with that, I'm going to make my other screen bigger. So, and then you can also CC. So we have recipients here. And there's CC and BCC. Can anyone in the chat or come off mute, even better, tell me the difference between CC and BCC?
Okay, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think CC is carbon copies, so you can send a copy of the email to another person, and I think they'll be notified. But with BCC, I don't think they will be notified. I'm not quite sure, but somewhere in that range.
Yeah, you are exactly in the range. So the first half, 100% CC, carbon copy, which is exactly what it stands for. I didn't know that for Tuesday. So great job. That will just, if you want to send something, or if you want to loop someone in on something or include them in a conversation, but they may not be directly involved, that CC, like Kayla was saying, that carbon copy is a great option. The BCC, it's carbon copy is a CC, but it's blind CC. So if you want to loop someone in on the conversation, but you don't want every single person you're sending it to know that you're including someone else on it, you blind CC them. So BCC. So that just, it's CC, but a little sneakier. And if you hit reply all, it doesn't respond to everyone that says that, or doesn't respond to those that are BCC'd.
Which is one of the reasons why we use BCC. So for example, when we send SummerWorks emails, we BCC you all so that if someone does reply, it doesn't go out to the whole group and you get a million emails. So BCC allows you to send it to people, but the other people can't see who it's going to. But CC also, you might be asking, like, why wouldn't you just put everyone in the 2? Like, what's the difference between 2 and CC? So this is kind of, there's a bunch of different ways, but say Tabitha has a question for me, and so she puts me in the 2, but she wants all the other success coaches to know in case they have the same question. So she'll put Mel and Morgan in there. But so when I respond, I'll respond to everyone, but it's kind of a way to show CC is like, hey, heads up, this is information for you, but you're not really required to respond to it. Versus if someone's sending you something directly, you should, like, they're waiting for a response or some sort of action, if that makes sense. I know it's kind of a little bit of an unspoken rule, but
yeah. Thank you, Kathleen, for clarifying that. And so exactly what she was saying. So if I were to send this email right now, it would tell Mel and Morgan that they are CC'd on it. So you'll know. And so that's like, consider it the nonverbal communication of email. That's what we're going to call it. We're TMing that right now. This is being recorded, so lock it down. But a couple other important things. So attachment, if you want to attach files, you can do that here. You can drag and drop files, or if you click here, it'll open up all the files on your computer for you to choose from and attach as a link. And Gmail has this chef's kiss fabulous function where if you say in the email, I'm going to attach something, and you don't attach something before you send it, it'll go, hey, do you want to send this? You didn't attach anything. So we love that. And then welcome to another one of Tabitha's personal crusades. Can anyone tell me what this little chain link does? I don't know if we're breaking my heart or we're making me sore because,
Okay.
oh no, Kayla.
So I think it's like, so I know on Google Docs, if you like copy and paste a link, it's basically the hyperlink function. So it'll turn like the words into a link.
Yes. Okay. You are 100% correct. Let me show you all a little something. I got to choose one that's, okay. Internship description packet. Everyone has seen this hyperlink, we would say give or take 5,000 times, right? This summer already. Okay. So which looks more professional? We got bank there, or we got internship description packet. Which one looks more professional, my friends? I've linked, yes, dear, she knows. And then you can just click it there and you can test it. So hyperlink, welcome to my personal crusade. I think that's everything. And then, oh, another setting that we can send you instructions how to do. So something that saves me constantly is when you send an email, Gmail automatically sets it up to give you 5 seconds. It pops up, it flashes at the bottom of your screen and it says undo send. So if you accidentally
you can send this to me if you want to show it.
Oh, so smart. Okay, so send. Oh, one recipient, huh? Email, hold it down. You can't send an email without a recipient. Okay, so if we send that, it'll say undo. Now, if I hit that, it'll undo the message. And you can change it in your settings. I'm not going to be as smooth as smell, I know, but you see all settings. So if you go to your settings, you can undo send. See here, 5 seconds. I'm just going to change it to 30 right now for myself. But you can change that here. So you go to settings and it's right under general. So you can give yourself a little bit of a buffer before it sends out a message. And 30 seconds when sending an email, like we talked about, it's not urgent. That 30 seconds only matters to you. So you might as well give it to yourself. All right. Any questions on email functions? Sending a I think it was Tia who said in the text, the chat box, that it can look tech savvy. So sending a really professional, polished email shows you can show a little bit of technical skills in that. So any questions on this?
I just want to say real quick that employers are always, I remember the first time I pulled that trick on an employer, and they were really impressed that I knew how to insert a hyperlink. But I just want to caution folks to be careful. Don't always open those up from people that you know, if it's an email address that you're familiar with. Because as Tabitha demonstrated, you can open up a link and then it says text to display, and you can write anything you want in there. You could say, this is the SummerWorks.info link. Click, and then that's all it will show. But in the address could be something totally unrelated that could give you a virus. So make sure you're only clicking on those when it's somebody you know. And when in doubt, you can right click on that and it'll show you the whole address, usually, I believe. And if you see something normal like www.http summerworks.info/342976, then you're pretty safe.
Sorry, I
HTTP
tried to.
safe.
Oh, sorry there. I didn't mean to cut you off. I tried to be quick with my tech and show them exactly what you were talking about, but I was too slow. But yes, the right click and copy and paste that will save you.
All right, so now that we've gone over all the amazing things email can do for you, what we're going to do is rewrite a couple of emails and talk about maybe why some of these examples are not so great. What I'll do first is just read the email out, and then I'm going to ask people to either put in the chat or come off mute and just kind of say, what's wrong with this? How do we fix this? And then we're going to kind of rewrite it. So this first one here, subject line just says late. And on the body of the paragraph here, it just says, my alarm clock is broken and missed the bus on my way. What do we think about this?
I feel like it's too urgent. I would notify my employer right away instead of an email.
Exactly. Yep. If you're coming in late and it's urgent, you can send a text or call. And anything that we could do to improve this, because we're actually going to rewrite this. So how about that subject line? What do we think of that? Are we okay with it just saying late, or do we want to add anything?
Are you asking me or are you asking
Just everyone, just
Okay.
general.
Okay.
And I will say, like Tiara, you have a really great point. We would encourage you to call or text. But just for the sake of rewriting an email and getting some practice, we're gonna try to rework this. So what would we want to say?
Got some fabulous thoughts in the chat.
Yeah, I see Brett here said you could add the date that you are going to be late. So if it is an email, yeah, just sometimes it's nice to just add that date in, so that way it's documented. Yeah, you can say tardy notice, really just any kind of professional way to show that you're going to be late for that morning or that day. So in the subject, what do we want to put in there? Because right now we've just got my alarm broke. I think it's totally missing two key components to every email, right? What's totally not there in this email?
You should say good morning.
Yep, exactly. We're missing a greeting altogether, right? So we want to start with that. And then next, I think, we can just basically say, hey, I'm running late this morning. My apologies. I plan to be into the office at 10 a.m. So what's nice about this is you're not being, you don't have to explain your alarm clock broke. I mean, that's fine, but you can just give a general, like, I am running late, make sure you apologize too, because it is your time and your employer's time. And then follow up with when you're going to be there, right? That lets people know when to expect you. So that's really important. And we can just kind of end this thing off with just a thank you or a best, and then your name, right? Pretty simple, straight, but formal, right? Professional. All right, I think we can hop over to the next one. And now we have subject meeting question mark. I'm lost on this protect. Can you help me? I'm free all day to meet. Dash Tabitha. All right, what did Tabitha do wrong here? Right, spelling, everything, says Dallas. Yeah, so we've got some spelling errors. You know, I think just a quick proofread could have solved that. Subject, can I meet with you on this date? Yeah, so you're looking to meet. You want to add what date it is. Sometimes if I'm having a meeting, if it's about something specific, I'll add in exactly what it's going to be, right?
Yeah, so what project are we talking about here? So let's hear, I'm gonna pick on Kayla. What would a subject be?
Couldn't find my unmute button. I would say just make it like a date. Maybe you would have in mind, and a meeting for what, not just meeting, question mark.
All right, so let's pick tomorrow and let's pick resume.
So 5/19 resume meeting.
Okay.
Perfect.
And then how would you write it?
I would say I'm lost on the project regarding our resumes, and I was wondering if you could find time in your schedule to assist me. And then put the availability.
Yep.
Nice.
So you want
What are
your
you gonna put before
dates
that?
and times that you're able to meet, right?
And I will say
Excuse me.
that I said this to the last group too, but even when you say you're available all day, that means different things to different people. So I get those messages a lot, like I'm available all day. I'm like, well, what hours are we talking about here? Like, are we talking work hours? Are we talking like till 10 p.m.? You know, what is all day? And it's also helpful to kind of have some guidance on that. So even if you say, oh, I'm free from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., like that's still helpful.
Another thing I'd say is like the greeting would be based off of who it's going to. Like, say it's going to a boss or something, then I'd probably ask good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're sending it, versus with a teacher, I would probably just leave it at what it was before in terms of the relationship with the teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, how are we gonna sign off? Oh, Tabitha's got a best. What are people's go-to sign-offs? Sincerely. I see that in the chat. That's a good one.
We got thank you, we got regards.
Hope to hear from you soon. That could be another line in there.
Yep.
Regards, yep. Cool. All right.
I think we got one more.
Oh, thank you for your time. Warmly. Bye-bye. Maybe not the best for email.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah, email takeaways, guys. Proofread, right? Proofread. That means don't just type it and send it, especially if you're feeling a type of way. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Proofread. Make sure your email is informative and concise. So, you know, you provide the information that you were trying to relay and you stick to it. I can't tell you guys, I'm not going to say it's someone in these PDs and SummerWorks, but I get some horrible emails / text messages. Folks talk to me like we grew up together. Yo, how can I get this? Or what's up with that? Excuse me, who's this? So, you know, make sure your email is informative. Tell me what you want me to know. Tell me what the ask is, you know, be direct. Don't be mean and rude, but, you know, be direct. If someone sends you an email, it's best to respond by email. That's another one. I'm pretty sure if I say what I'm about to say, somebody's been through it. How many folks have been texting and then that person stops texting and calls you like right in the middle? Doesn't that just kind of burn your bread? You know, that makes me upset. Like if I wanted to talk to you, we wouldn't be texting. That's in a personal sense though. So we don't know what's on the schedule of the professional, right? I could be in the middle of a meeting and I could be, which I often do. I could be in the middle of a meeting or a Zoom or a conference or sitting in front of my boss. He's like staring me right in my face. I have enough to send you an email to let you know, hey, I'm here. I'm reading your concerns and I'm gonna get with you. But then you decide to continuously call me. Yeah, that's a bit problematic. That's a turn off there. Or well, no, y'all call them red flags. That's a red flag. Address the recipient by name if you're unsure of their gender identity. Avoid Miss, Mrs., Mr. Ain't nothing wrong with calling them Randy. Hey, Randy, how you doing today? Or hey, Sarah, you know, approach them, of course, with the appropriate greeting. Do not type what I'm saying because you guys know I just say the first thing that comes to my mind. So it's kind of like you learn in PD of what to do, and then you also learn to don't do what Dallas does, right? Unless I'm being more serious, but I'm hoping this is keeping you guys awake. Yeah, either way. And then express gratitude because we all like to be thanked, you know. Thank me for my time or thank me for my efforts. Not just me, it's not about me, but in general, thank them for their time, thank them for their efforts. You appreciate the consideration that they've given you. I mean, manners go a long way, ladies and gents. They go an awful long way. A simple please and thank you can get you through so many more doors than forgetting to say it. Not that you're being rude, but you just have to be careful. You know, you have to make sure you're crafting these things. We're crafting emails. We're not just typing stuff up. So make sure you utilize those pleases and thank yous and all of the ways in which we've signed off and the way in which we've practiced on delivering said information and our greetings. Just be careful, please. All right. I'm going to pass this to Armika.
Yeah, that was great, Dallas. Thank you. And I appreciate the young person that said, you know, when you're opening up, hello is perfectly fine and appropriate, and then go into what you need. But it goes a long way if you hope someone is having a good day, or I hope your day is going well, or, you know, good morning, as someone said earlier. It sets the tone for the rest of the email. So we can go ahead. If anybody had any questions for Dallas, I can hold for 30 seconds or so. All right. Going once, going twice. Let's talk about some phone etiquette. So some characteristics of great phone etiquette. When you call someone or someone calls you in a professional setting, or when you're representing your organization, even if it's outside of hours or outside of the office, introduce yourself. So state your name. So if you're answering the phone, hi, thanks for calling Cronin and Cargie. This is Armika. How can I help you? Or if you're calling out to someone, hi, this is Armika Ritchie over at Poverty Solutions. I'm trying to reach Mayor Duggan. Is he in? You know, announce your name so that they can, you know, have more than one chance, hopefully, to recall it. So if they need to ask you it again, then they have a better chance of remembering it. And it's helpful going both ways. Ask who you're calling for. I mean, add who you're calling for. That's helpful. That, you know, means that they don't have to ask. You're letting them know you're calling for Barack Obama, obviously. So speak clearly when you're on the phone. Don't be afraid to enunciate. It does not make you seem silly or anything. If you're quoting numbers, go ahead and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 100. So go ahead and speak clearly. Use proper language. We don't want to say no cap or anything like that, because a lot of us don't have that language in common. You know, if you're speaking with your friends, obviously, you know, you guys have a shorthand and a language in common. But if you're speaking in a professional sense, then your common language is proper language. So use that. Remain cheerful on the phone. Like Dallas said, it's important to appreciate someone's time, you know, let them know that you appreciate them taking the time to help. You might be the only person that told them you appreciate them or thank you that day. And it can go a long way to building a good relationship with someone. They might want to help you that little extra bit. So another thing about being cheerful over the phone, I'm told that people can hear you when you're smiling when you answer the phone. So it might sound different if I say, thank you for calling Bobo the Go-Go. How can I help you? Or if I say, thank you for calling Bobo the Go-Go. How can I help you? It sounds a little, you know, more upbeat. And that can go a long way too, because you don't want somebody to say that person had an attitude on the phone. So yeah, go ahead and remain cheerful, and people like that. So ask before putting someone on hold or transferring someone. So what that sounds like is, thank you, I'll see if they're available. Can I place you on a short hold? Or, you know, can I put you on hold while I transfer you over to their office? So ask, and also ask before you put someone on speakerphone. If you're using hands or if you need to write something down, don't just put someone on speakerphone and say, do you mind if I put you on speakerphone? A lot of times they might say no. So you want to figure out a different way to jot information down if that's what you're doing. So, or whatever you're doing with your hands. So be honest if you don't have the answer to a question. Make it a point to find out and let somebody know as soon as you get the answer. So that's just common courtesy. Don't give false information and then with promises to go and give true information, because then they could get the messages mixed up and not remember which information is right. So say, I think it was 12, but let me get back to you on that. And then you go back and call them and say it was 21. You know, they might say, I don't remember if it was 12 or 21, and they have to call you back or something. So if you don't know the answer, just don't give it until you know for sure. Be mindful of your volume. I've heard people answer the phone and say, hi, thanks for calling Patty's Daycare. How can I help you? And you know, you can't hear them, and that's very off-putting when you're on the phone with someone. So make sure you're not speaking too loud. Make sure you're not speaking too quietly. Go ahead and practice projecting your voice. Don't be afraid to practice, you know, your facial expressions for work and your voice for phone in the mirror. You know, you might have to do that to make sure you're presenting the way you want to present. So also be mindful of your background. I just had my window open and there's some lawn mowing going on. So I had to go ahead and quickly mute because we're on a Zoom call and close my window, and hopefully that helped a little bit. So be mindful of background noise. It can't always be helped. So people understand that, but do try. And check and respond, like Tabitha said, just like you respond regularly and check regularly your email. Make sure you do the same with your voicemails. Don't just let them go. Don't save them for last. Go ahead and respond to that, even if you think it might not be important. It might be important to somebody. So check your voicemail, respond to it. Don't expect that they will call back if it's important. Just tie up those loose ends always when you're representing someone else's company, and respond in a timely manner. So that goes for voicemails, emails. And also, if you don't answer your boss, if he sends you an email or she sends you an email, if you don't answer in what they feel like is a timely manner, they might feel ghosted by that, you know. And for some jobs, they'll take you off the schedule if they don't hear from you and what they think is a good time. So yeah, it's at your soonest convenience. Go ahead and respond. And if it's more urgent, then respond more urgently. Other than that, can anybody else think of any good guidelines for email and phone and things like that before we move on? Have you guys come up against any email or phone issues? I can't think of any others. Those are good ones to start. So at this time, I'll hand it back over to Kathleen. And and you let us know what kind of time we have and what we should do.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna do one quick scenario. Ben, did you see my message or no? All right, we need 2 volunteers to do a quick scenario.
Me.
All right, we got Maria for one.
And then we got
Wait. So group scenarios being like a situation and like we like act.
Yes. So the first one, Maria, I'm gonna give it to you. And so I want you to practice or give us an example. Say you're leaving someone a voicemail. Give us an unprofessional example of leaving a voicemail.
Yo, bro. So you didn't answer the call, yo, bro. So I just wanted to let you know something, cause I called you, bro, and you didn't answer, bro. So,
All right.
Yeah, that's it. Just call me back, please. Bye bye. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Maria. So I forgot that there was a prompt, but Maria's example was still great of what an unprofessional voicemail sounds like. And so, Saran, I see that you volunteered to be our professional example of leaving a voicemail. So pretend that you missed a call from a potential employer for a job you're interested in. You call back and you get their voicemail. So what are you going to say, Saran?
Okay, I'll try my best. Okay. Hi, this is Saudan Kaba from SummerWorks, and I'm calling back to return your email. I really apologize for missing your email earlier, but I do want to continue to express that I'm very interested in this job position. I am available until 8 p.m. today, as well as for the rest of the week. And I look forward to receiving your call. And again, I apologize. Thank you.
All right. Sounds wonderful. Thank you, Saran. Does anyone have any feedback for Maria or Saran? You can put it in the chat or you can come off mute.
I'll be back. Is it still about the scenario?
Yeah.
Or like just in general? Okay. So it's about the person who just went.
Yeah. Or you.
My own feedback. I think mine was very funny, but like and so unprofessional, but it was great. Yeah.
What do you think an employer would think if they got that voicemail? Maria.
I think they would probably think I was being like very funny, but like they would take it unseriously. So, and they would be mad because I was not being professional and stuff. So, yeah.
All right. Do you think you would get hired, Maria?
No, I think if I was even hired, I would get fired that same day.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would want to do serious business with you, but they would definitely compliment the way that you project your voice. You have a very good voice delivery, though. But yeah, definitely they would not want to do business with you or have you represent their company in that way. But they would laugh.
Thank you very much.
All right, and then I see here that for Saran, it was very professional, that we would hire you very quickly, but the only thing is a callback number. And so that could also be something to add in there. But that being said, I feel like we're also in a time of the world where your phone number is displayed on the, they know who's going to call. So if you do forget it, it's not the end of the world, but sometimes it is helpful. And especially if people are writing it down so they can keep it later. So yeah, any other feedback?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't call back and say, oh, I forgot to leave my number, especially if they called you first or emailed you. So you could follow up with email and say, here, I just left a voicemail with you to let you know that I'm interested. And here's my number so that it's handy or something like that.
Yeah.
But don't call back in
Preston-
panic.
Yeah. And Preston had said only call back if that's not a number you're going to use. So if you want them to call you at a different number, obviously you need to tell them what the number is. But also, I lost my train of thought for a second. But if they called you, then obviously they have your number. But if you are the one doing the calling first, it is important sometimes to make sure that they know where to call you back at. So just a thought on that.
And again, just in case anyone thought I was bluffing, I've got my callback number right here on a sticky note because I forget constantly. I'm all about the hacks. Gotta work smart, not hard, or smart and hard, my friends.
You have it there because you will forget to quote it, or you will forget the number.
I've done both where
It'll
I've
work.
quoted the number wrong and I've forgotten to give it back. So I've just, it's right there. It's bright orange. I can't miss it.
Efficiency.
It's also because it's not your primary phone number either.
Yes, that does make it very harder. So very much harder. So if you have a professional number and a personal number, you may want to set up some things to help your life be a little easier.
Hacks are a beautiful thing.
All right, so we are going to transition to talking about social identities. And so I'm going to pass it over to Tabitha.
All right, my friends. So we're going, like Kathleen said, we're going to talk about some social identities in the workplace. So first of all, I just want to vocalize that social identities can be an incredibly personal thing to talk about. So first and foremost, please respect yourselves and one another and be kind to yourselves and one another. And also be mindful of what you're comfortable sharing, and please don't feel any pressure to share anything outside of that, because we will break out into small groups, and just being mindful of all that, but you will not be required to share anything. With that being said, so social identities in the workplace. Tabitha, why are we talking about social identities? We're talking about professional communication. I'm so glad you asked. So there are a lot of different ways our social identities play out in the workplace. So in a couple of concrete examples, our pronouns, how we introduce ourselves and how we identify and how we'd like to be identified by others, and communicating that with folks. That's one way. Culture, so how we see the world and how others may see us through our culture, or how maybe they don't see our culture with how we present. That can be at play in the workplace. And also missteps, as people can have the perfect best intentions and you'll still make a mistake because you're a human being and they're human beings. So how do you address missteps in the workplace, be they small, large, intentional or not? So our social identities are something that we carry with us at all times. And one thing that will be reiterated throughout SummerWorks professional development is you should not have to check who you are at the door to be a professional. We're doing something called holistic professionalism, which means you get to be the entirety of yourself when being professional. So I digress. Let's talk about a social identities activity. Kathleen?
Yes. All right. So today we are going to ask you to take some reflection time and think about your own identities and how they relate to your professional self. And so everyone has a different level of familiarity with these topics. And so if this is the first time that you're talking about social identities, we hope to introduce you to it. And if this is something that you've done a lot, we encourage you to maybe explore them for the first time in a professional way. But we do want to, as Tabitha mentioned, outline that this is a safe space, a brave space for you to explore. And if anytime you feel uncomfortable, please feel free to take a step back. But I just want to remind everyone of our community guidelines and what we talked about at the beginning of the summer. So first and foremost, make sure to respect others and yourself. Speak only from your own experience. Please actively participate. And so, even though a lot of you have your cameras off. We will be breaking out into small groups, so please make sure that you're still participating and talking with others. And then if you do see ideas, make sure that you're challenging ideas and not people, and make sure to challenge respectfully. And so I just want to make sure that if anyone has any other guidelines to add, please feel free to put them in the chat. And just as a reminder, only do what you feel comfortable doing. And so if you need to take a break or space, just let us know. And so what are social identities? So what does this mean? What are some examples? So a social identity is something that's socially constructed. So we're talking about society and, identities that are given to us by society. They can be claimed or assigned or clear or unclear. They inform our perceptions of others and may or may not align with how we personally identify. And so there are differences between personal identities and social identities. And so specifically social identities is how other people view you, but can also be how you view yourself and how you show up in spaces. And so some examples of these are race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status. And so that has to do with like resources and money, if that's something that you're unfamiliar with. So sex and gender, those are sometimes used interchangeably, but they are very different. So sex is what you're assigned at birth and is, biological. And then gender expression is how you identify and how you show up and how you present yourself. Sexual orientation, who you love, and then ability status as well. And so a lot of these, some of them are people can perceive by just looking at you. Some of them are internal and only you know, and unless you choose to share that, people are not gonna, only you know how you identify. And so we just want to share a, Tabitha, can you drop in the chat the document? So we are going to pull up a worksheet, and if you want any further definitions, on the second page of this worksheet, it kind of goes through what each of these different groups means and some different examples of different types of identities within each of the categories. And so we want to think about, and yes, you will not be turning this in. Also, we know that it's virtual, so it's not like you have to fill it out online or typing it in, but it might be nice to jot down some notes if you have a pen handy. You don't have to keep them. It's just to use for this activity. And so we're going to be kind of thinking about our identities and get the conversation started, and we will be revisiting these throughout the summer, especially when we talk about workplace interactions and workplace ethics, and how our identities show up there. So I'm going to pass it over to Tabitha to show you a little bit more about the activity she dropped in the chat.
So here is the worksheet, and the questions that were on the slide, the same questions here. So identities that you think about most often, identities you think about least often. You all can read those. I'll leave those up there and you can follow the link in the chat. But around the circle, they have each of those different social identities that we talked about and a couple additional ones too. So just take a moment on your own to think about each one of these and how you personally identify, and how you personally identify can be completely different than the identity that you were assigned to. But so just thinking about how you identify and think about all these questions. And again, these are very personal items. One way to kind of depersonalize it or think about it in a more professional way, a less personal way, could be, how do my personal identities or social identities impact me as a young professional, or how do I present my identities in a professional way? And I'll put those in the chat too, but we'll give everyone a few minutes. Kathleen, do we have?
Yes, we'll give everyone about 5 minutes.